Hey guys, welcome back to A Page in the Chapter, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Paige and today we are doing the finally full book tag. This is the first video that I'm filming in over a week. My previous videos were pre-filmed. It's kind of an adjustment again to being in front of the camera. I'm also feeling a little stressed and emotionally drained today. I was tagged to do this by Alex from This Is Not a Booktube, and given my current mood, it feels like a no bones day to me. I just want to relax. So I kind of just want to do a chill, fun tag. I've never actually done this tag before, so thank you to Alex for tagging me, and I really loved the way that she tagged me. She didn't do it in a typical way, so I'll get into that at the end because I'm going to be tagging in the same way. I'm going to follow in her footsteps. So yeah, this is essentially an all things autumnal book tag. So if you guys like the sound of this video and you like what you have seen so far, please feel free to hit that big red subscribe button down below. I upload twice a week on a Wednesday and a Friday, so there's no shortage of bookish content here for you to enjoy. I don't think I'm gonna keep nattering on for too long. No one wants that. Let's get into the questions. So the first question slash prompt for this tag is: the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting. So I have chosen two books for this. The first book I have chosen is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, and I kind of had to choose this one even though I didn't read this year, I don't think anyway. And I had to choose this because I describe this book as a setting driven book. It is about a magical, monstrous school where there are no teachers. You're kind of just thrown in and this school will attack you and you have to form alliances and learn spells in order to survive this school that is literally trying to kill you. And it is such a vivid school setting, and this setting is really what drives this book and what this whole book is centered around. Rather than plot or characters, it is setting. I really enjoyed this. I can see why it gets mixed reviews though. This is very setting driven, has a very vivid setting. And then the second book I have chosen is The Year of the Witching. I again read this last year rather than this year, but it just has, setting wise, has stayed with me, atmosphere wise has really stayed with me. It is about a very puritanical religious town, and our main character is growing up kind of burdened with the fact that her mother was an outlaw who ran away with the witches. And this was a much darker, much more atmospheric read than I was expecting it to be, but I really enjoyed it. And this kind of puritanical little town set on the edge of these really dark, mysterious woods just stayed in my mind, and this book came to mind when I saw this question. The second prompt is kind of sad. Nature is beautiful but also dying. Name a book that's beautifully written but deals with a heavy topic. Now I have kind of very much avoided those kind of books this year. I know that I am not in the right mental state to be reading those books, and I haven't ever felt confident enough this year to really test the bounds of my anxiety, even when I've been feeling better. So I actively avoided those kind of books. But there are two that I think at a push could fit into this. So rather than dealing with heavy topics, I mean this is still kind of a heavy topic, but rather than looking explicitly at heavy topics, I've just gone with some darker topics, and so I have chosen If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I am over halfway into this book, although I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna DNF it because it's making me very anxious to read. It's too dark for me, but it is beautifully written and a fantastic book, and I highly recommend it. My DNF is not a reflection on this book in this case. But this follows our main character, Oliver, and he's just been released from prison for a murder, but they don't actually know for a fact that he was the one who committed the murder. And so he sits down with the detective that was looking at the case all those years ago and agrees to tell the detective the real story. And it's very dark academia set at this Shakespearean theatre school. This is a really good book. I do think it's beautifully written. I love all of the insights of Shakespeare and the fact that those are kind of analysed as well. I love the dark academia setting. It's just not a good fit for me right now. And then also I kind of chose Daisy Jones, because this book does deal with some dark topics. It is absolutely beautiful. We all kind of know by this point how in love with Taylor Jenkins Reid I am, but also her writing. This book tells the tale of a band in the 70s who were reaching the height of their fame, and then at this pinnacle decided to break up the band, and they all kind of left the music industry forever and no one really knows what happens. And again, similar to If We Were Villains, is told in the form of an interview, and this does deal with some pretty heavy topics. It has trigger warnings for all kinds of substance abuse. It's portrayed as a very bright book, but at its core is actually quite hard-hitting, but it was beautiful, and this one actually didn't send me into any kind of anxiety spiral, so we love to see it. Fall is back to school season, a non-fiction book that taught you something new. I am a little embarrassed by how little non-fiction I've read this year. It used to be my main genre, but I did read this one book. So I did read A Half-Baked Idea for Rachel's Books and Me book club. I did not give this the highest rating. I didn't enjoy it overall as a book, but it's essentially a memoir of Olivia Potts, who after the death of her mum decides to quit her career, learn to be a baker and go into the culinary industry. Now for me, this didn't have enough of the baking in it. That was like really what I wanted, and the beginning bit of this book is very much quite dark, heavy, surrounding her mum's death and the grief and anxiety that plagued her after that. But in terms of learning something new, let me see if I can find an example. At the end of every single chapter, Olivia Potts has included a recipe that she talked about in that chapter or is linked to that chapter in some way, and it's like a real recipe with the ingredients and how you make it in this book. And so I read through every single one of those recipes. I will be making the banana bread at some point, and I did learn something new from this. I learned a little bit about the criminal justice system. I learned a little bit about baking and the technicalities of baking. I would maybe think about checking it out during this bake-off season if you are interested. Hopefully you give it a higher review than I did. Apologies if the camera angle is different or something has changed. My camera battery died, so now I'm back later when it is warmer and I no longer need my cardigan. I believe the next question that we got to is name a fictional family slash household slash friend group that you would like to be a part of. I have two selections for this because I wanted a selection that was a read from this year so that this book tag is specific to this year. But then because I'd never done this tag before, I did also want to include like an all-time favourite. So the all-time favourite family that I want to be a part of is the Delos family from Star-Crossed by Josephine Angelini. This is one of my all-time favourite books, and I do not see it getting a lot of love. If you, like me, grew up reading Percy Jackson, then you need to be reading Star-Crossed. This is like a Greek mythology based enemies to lovers book that also has like elements of adventure in it. It's very much a mix between Percy Jackson and The Mortal Instruments. I highly recommend this book. The Delos family are just one I really want to be a part of. It's this very big cozy family who do everything together and protect each other like crazy, and like I just remember the main character in that book like talking about how everyone in the household kind of rotates around the mum figure and she's kind of like the hero figure, and that has just always stayed with me. You'll notice a trend with these two families that I have chosen. They are both very big, very close families, and I think that probably has something to do with the fact I'm an only child. And then the second book family I have chosen is the Reaver family from Malibu Rising. They're just a big, very close-knit family. And like, it's only the siblings that are close-knit. They have a lot of childhood trauma and problems with the adults in their family, but like I want to be one of the Reaver siblings. They look like they have so much fun. They just like go out surfing together all the time, and then they throw these big wild parties because they're like low-key famous. And I know that they really like struggle and they have trials and tribulations throughout this book, and that's kind of the point, but just the way that they come together as a family for each other, as much as I wouldn't want to deal with the trauma that they dealt with, it maybe wouldn't be so bad if you had people to lean on the way that they did with each other. The leaves are piling on the ground show a pile of full-coloured spines. So I've gone red to orange to blue and gold. I don't really know what it is about these books that scream autumn to me. I mean, obviously the red and the orange kind of make sense. It's like autumn leaves. But I don't really know why I chose the blue and the gold. I just kind of looked at this set together and I was like, yeah, this represents autumn to me. These spines particularly reflect autumn, but then this one is like Halloween, and then this one is like cozy autumn nights, or like dark autumn days where it's cloudy and rainy and you're curled up with a book. That's what these books together represent for me. The next prompt is to choose a book where someone is telling a story. I've chosen a redo, but I've also chosen a new one. So the redo is If We Were Villains. As I said, this follows Oliver telling the story of what happened when he was at college to the detective who was investigating the case originally. So that's very much like a story within a story type of concept. And then the next selection is 1,000 Nights by E.K. Johnston. There are so many iterations of this kind of story. I believe The Wrath and the Dawn might also be an iteration of this story. And then obviously you also have 1001 Nights, the actual classic. And this follows our main character who is taken to the king to be his bride, I believe, and then to keep herself alive because he's killed all his other brides. She tells him stories, and in this is like a more fantasy retelling, and she actually has a power. I read this a really long time ago. I don't remember loving it, but I can't bring myself to unhaul it. So maybe this will be a reread at some point, and then if I still don't like it, it will go. The nights are getting darker. Share a dark, creepy read. Now, as I've kind of mentioned, dark, creepy, not really my vibe. I don't read thrillers, gravitate towards thrillers. That being said, a YA thriller that's really, really good and really freaked me out but I really enjoyed is Ace of Spades. This is like a Gossip Girl meets thriller type of book. It follows our two main characters at a very elite private school in America, and then there is a figure called Aces who is releasing information and secrets via social media that kind of threatens to turn their worlds upside down. And it's a really, really complex, in-depth story. As much as I don't like or read thrillers, I did really enjoy that story and how it went. And then for this I've also chosen Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This is another really recent read. It's just very good. Like, I love V.E. Schwab. She does creepy really well. And so Vicious follows our two main characters, Victor and Eli, and they were at school together and they were theorizing about the possibility of like extraordinary humans, and when this theoretical research becomes experimental research, they end up becoming enemies. And this follows Victor 10 years later when he's broken out of prison and he's tracking Eli down in order to take him down because they're now enemies. And I really, really liked this book. Admittedly, I preferred the flashbacks a bit more than I preferred the present day, so I don't know how I'm going to enjoy the second book. As much of a dark academia, darker theme as this is, I think the fantasy elements really helped with my anxiety in this one because it was much easier to believe like, oh, this isn't happening to me, this isn't actually happening, because it had those magical realism fantasy elements. So if you're like me and you like anxiety wise don't really do dark and thriller, maybe try Vicious, because I found that one like still kind of creepy but didn't send me into a spiral. The days are getting colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm up somebody's cold and rainy day. Now I have like two of like main comfort reads, but the first like short one that I would recommend is Stardust by Neil Gaiman. If you've seen the movie with like Robert De Niro and Michelle Pfeiffer, this is the book that was based on, except this is like aimed at adults whereas the movie is aimed at children. And this still has all of those magical, like comforting, cozy, magical storytelling world, but it also has a little bit of like spice and violence to it. So I love it in a completely different way than I love the movie. If you don't know, this follows our main character Tristan, and he lives in this very small, quaint English village, and it's believed that there's like a magical town on the other side of the wall that runs through this town. And he promises the woman that he's trying to woo, Victoria, that he will cross the wall and bring her back a fallen star. And this leads him on a whole adventure into this magical other realm on the other side of the wall. And it's honestly fantastic. Fall returns every year. A favourite book you'd like to return to soon? I am not a huge one for rereads. I'm rereading Addie. I will be rereading Stardust. But like in general, I'm not a huge one for rereads. However, I would quite like to reread the Infernal Devices series by Cassandra Clare, so Clockwork Angel, Clockwork Prince, Clockwork Princess, those 3 books. Those were my favourite Cassandra Clare books growing up. I haven't reread them since I first read them. I remember sobbing like an absolute baby, and I just absolutely adored them as a teenager, so I'd quite like to maybe go back and read those, but I'm also kind of scared because I don't think that they're as good as I remember them being, and I don't know if I want to lose that magic. But of all of the books on my shelves to reread, I think that series is up there. So the next question is, fall is the perfect time for cozy reading nights. Share your favourite cozy reading accessories. The main one that is an actual cozy reading accessory is my Udi. I live in this thing in the colder months, sometimes even in the warmer months. It's so cozy and soft and fluffy, and this is not sponsored at all, but if you ever wanted to, I would be more than down for it. This is my main cozy reading accessory. If I have this on, it's a cozy night, no matter what the weather is. And then my second one is not really an accessory, but one that makes my cozy reading nights better, and that is cozy essential oils for my essential oil diffuser. I have a Christmas cookie one, I have a whole like Halloween box to choose from, a whole like Halloween collection of essential oils. I have like a baked one, I particularly love the baked apple pie. I also have like pumpkin cookie. I can't use them as much now that I'm living at home though, because I'm worried about them around the dogs. Please be aware that essential oils are not the best and can sometimes be toxic to your pets, so please be careful and like look up whether what you're using is safe. So when the pets are downstairs and my door is closed, then I can use them, but my pets make my cozy reading nights cozier too, so sometimes I will forego the essential oil for the puppy cuddles. And then finally we have spread the autumn appreciation and tag some people. Now the way that I was tagged and the way Alex tagged people in this tag was, rather than giving specific tags, because that makes me feel really like anxious and scared to tag specific people, she just tagged everyone who has a pet that watches her videos. They were tagged to do it. So I'm gonna follow in her footsteps, and this is probably what I'm gonna do for every tag video from now on, and I'm gonna choose a theme. So the theme for this tag is, if you enjoy a cozy pumpkin spice latte, you are tagged to do this tag, and please let me know if you do it so I can go and watch your videos. And so that is my finally full book tag. I do hope that you guys enjoyed this video. As I said, I needed something a bit more chilled, easy, just talking to you guys about some books today. If you guys enjoyed this video and you do want to see other tags from me, do feel free to hit that big red subscribe button, and all of my tags are in the playlist Booktube Classics, and you guys can go and watch some of the others if you are interested. Also do feel free to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Page and Chapter for kind of behind the scenes content and more up to date what I'm reading, reviews, pictures of my dogs. That's a big selling point. And I'm gonna end this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. It really does mean a lot that you guys do. Let me know down in the comments if you do this tag, or if you don't want to do it but you have answers to the questions, then let me know your answers too and we can discuss. I hope you guys are having a fantastic week, you enjoy everything you are reading, and there are no reading slumps in your future, and I will see you next week for my next video. Bye guys.